In the chain of death investigation in Kenya, where does truth most commonly get lost? At the mortuary, the postmortem table, or the report stage? What happens is that you get yourself lost in line of act of service. There's no emergency in death per se, if I should put it that way. In the cold room, you just turn into a number. There is no professor, there is no daktari, there's none of that. All narrows down to deceased number admission. Do you think society respects morticians or just tolerates them because death is unavoidable? To the layman, respect comes when you wander into my corridors and actually get to know what I do, really do. So that's why your respect will be garnered from. So that's a pass. Hi guys, my name is Ann Mwangangi. I am a mortician by profession, and today I am here to answer these questions from the honesty box from my perspective as a mortuary attendant doing mortuary science as a course. In the chain of death investigation in Kenya, where does truth most commonly get lost? At the mortuary, the postmortem table, or the report stage? Interesting. I will say everyone partakes, and it's hard to miss. It's hard to miss what is true. It is hard to miss what is. You cannot manipulate facts. And that's what we deal with. You cannot manipulate facts. And from the point of investigation, from where I sit from my desk, to the postmortem chain, to the police report, this one I can say with 100% certainty that there is no loss in truth as far as the chain of death investigation is concerned. So you can never miss when it comes to getting the truth and the facts out. With postmortem, it can only be truth because that's the only way the dead speak to us. So it's hard to miss the facts because it's more based on anatomy more than hearsay and stuff. So no, it cannot get missed. That I can promise you for sure. In mass death or high-profile cases, does speed become more important than accuracy? Accuracy is paramount, especially if you're dealing with people per se. So we are sworn to do our duties diligently without tampering with anything whatsoever. So yeah, accuracy is, it doesn't matter. The truth about my career is that there is nothing as high profile case. A deceased is a deceased person. There is no regards to status. There is no regards to your name before death. You become a number, a statistic. And to us, everyone is served at par, regardless of whatever societal diploma they held in the society. So there is nothing as status or high profile in the morgue. In the cold room, you just turn into a number. There is no professor. There is no daktari. There is none of that. All narrows down to deceased number admission, and that's it. So accuracy is everything. Yeah, so speed. There's no emergency in death per se, if I should put it that way. There's no emergency in death. So accuracy it is 101%. Yep. Interesting. These are interesting questions. How much power do morticians actually have over what family eventually see and believe? A mortician work is very standard. It's only one, to forestall decomposition. That is the only thing I'm paid to do. Any other thing comes with what the family suggests or mandates of us to do generally. So when it comes to families, what they see, mine is just to make sure that the final presentation is everything. To make sure they just have the closure needed in times of distress, in times of grief and mourning. So yeah. So we are the last people to put the smile on the people who are gone. So basically that's for the family really. So all the powers I got is to create an illusion of rest, to make sure that my people, the people I serve, get to have closure on all angles and the aspect, to make and to come into terms with grief. So that is the power that I hold, to forestall decomposition, to present the truth, and most importantly, to give the illusion of rest. Does constant exposure to death make you value life more, or does it quietly numb you? That's a tough one. You are inclined to value life more because you have seen it get lost. You have seen lost dreams, lost potential. So yeah, the time frame really, it is all clear that we all are here in a very limited time. So basically, death makes you value living more. And you don't per se become numb. It is hard for you to become numb. I think what happens is that you get yourself lost in line of act of service. And you put your people before you, your heart before theirs. All right? So you put your heart in line for them to have the closure again. At what point did handling the dead stop feeling sacred and start feeling routine? And does that moment scare you? Honestly, it has never become a routine for me, because everybody comes with a story. Everyone lying on that table has a story, and with them they leave people who ultimately cared for them enough to give them more of a dignified send-off. So it is never a routine. The work is my routine, but the handling of the body is not a routine, it's sacred. You treat everyone with the utmost dignity they deserve. Everyone comes with them a story of a life well lived, a story of a lost cause, a story of neglect, a story of loss, and a story of continuity. So no, it is more sacred than routine. So no, it doesn't feel like a routine. And if it gets to that point that I wake up in the morning and think my work is a routine, it is time for me to pack up my bags and probably call it a good season for what it is. Have you ever felt complicit in a system that fails the dead or the living? Have you ever felt complicit in a system? No. I think everyone is wired differently. I think everyone has their own passions and interests and where they lie. So no, I've never felt as if I'm an accomplice to the system failing. Per se, let's put it at this. The system itself has failed even the ones that are really trying to support it. I am a mortician by profession, but I do not get to dictate the environment that I work in. That is entirely up to my bosses and the people who are the stakeholders of what I'm doing. So let's imagine this. A level 5 hospital with this of a tiny mortuary and with a capacity of 100 bodies from all over, the unknown, the repatriated bodies. And on the other hand, you have morticians who have actually gone to class and acquired licenses to practice. We do our bidding, and then everything else falls in the hands of those above us. So no, I've never felt as if I'm complying with a system that fails the dead. Yeah, so it is more working for them, and then everyone takes up their mantle by their capacity. If I was to answer that question honestly. Is emotional detachment a professional skill or a survival trauma response? Emotional detachment is more of a professional skill. You don't want to get intertwined with clients. You don't want to go further than what your professional orientation dictates. As far as I'm concerned, you're my client and I am your custodian. So no, I do, so whatever I will, technically it's more, it's not a survival tactic, because there's something called debriefing in all. If it gets overwhelming, you debrief. It's more of a professional skill, because once you get intertwined with your clients, you lose the professional aspect of it. So emotional detachment is more of a professional skill and not a survival trauma response. How often does grief turn into conflict, corruption, or manipulation behind closed doors? How often does grief turn into conflict, corruption, or manipulation behind closed doors? Everyone has their own agendas and unsettled scores. Everyone. And every family has a different story to tell. There are those who still fight on their land wrangles. There are those who have unsettled scores when it comes to marital affairs. There are those who still have pending issues as far as them and the deceased are concerned. But honestly, that is, when it comes to my desk, has nothing to do with them until it lands to court. And I only have one mandate. It is to do what the law or the state dictates. So whatever happens during grief as far as family conflict, corruption, or manipulation is concerned has nothing to do with the closed doors, but has a lot to do with the ones who came for aid. So tunasemanga hiyo ni mambo yao until it goes to court. So yeah, so the only way I can intervene is to serve as per the state requires me to, and not to literally meddle on conflicts as far as families are concerned. What's the darkest reality of this job that training never prepares you for? I wouldn't call it a darkest reality. Rather, I'll call it the reality that this job, or rather the training aspect of it, does not tell you. You will be taught a lot in class. A lot is taught in school. A lot is said by the lecturers and professors. But there are things that you need to self-orient yourself with. There are things you need to get yourself accustomed to. Number one, nobody tells you about the smells. Nobody coaches you enough when it comes to the smells of the bodies. Nobody tells you about the brokenness of human. Yes, the brokenness of the people around us. Yes, nobody can truly tell you what it takes for you to survive in that kind of an environment where there is weeping 24/7. Nobody really prepares you for the smell that comes with it. Those are things you personally coach yourself and safeguard yourself from. You literally build a thick skin, or is it a tough skin, for yourself. So I wouldn't call it the darkest reality. And everybody comes from very different cultural and ethnic background. I think some of the things we see firsthand, especially when it comes to practice of culture and ethnicity, the dynamics of our social status, I think nobody really prepares you for that until it lands on your desk and the reality hits in that you cannot be taught everything in class. Some things you have to be hands-on to really experience what it really means. So yeah, they never prepared us for some of these things. Yeah. What is something the public is not ready to hear about how bodies are handled in Kenya? We do what we can. We do what is mandated of us. I think you can't really per se monitor everyone. The only accord I can guarantee my clients is dignity. The only thing a dead man requires from me is dignity. And that is the only thing I can offer. As far as the public is concerned, I do what is morally correct and morally just to my people, the society I serve, and the country as large. So you cannot go off the books really, unless that's who you truly are. It has nothing to do with the job. Malpractice has a lot to do with who you are as an individual. It's not a calculated move for all of us to partake. What uncomfortable truth about death do morticians understand that doctors and pastors don't talk about? Death is inevitable. And that is the saddest reality. We might try to save it, as the doctors do. Everybody wants to buy time. Everybody wants to pay for time. And everybody wants to sometimes replay on time. But nobody wants to really believe it can come into a halt. You are promised eternity. But the truth of the matter is, death is inevitable. And that's what you learn in our corridors, in those cold rooms, is that as precious as your story will be, the only thing that truly matters is the legacy you leave behind. The legacy that you leave behind, because death is surely inevitable, unfortunately. So we can pay for time, buy time, try to navigate around time, but death is inevitable. Even if we pray about it from the pastor's perspective, it's still inevitable. Has the mortuary industry ever asked you to choose between ethics and money? How did you choose? I think when it comes to the table of the dead, money is not part of the question, really. Ethics is. And that's what dignity has to do, is what you can do when nobody is watching, is what you can do, what service you can accord. When the person you're serving has no defense, they have no speech to alter, they have nothing to say, and they're just there. They're just them, lying there lifeless. So basically, you can never choose between the two in the land of the dead, as we call it. So ethics will always win. I've never per se been put in a scale or weighing balance, if I may put it like that, between ethics and money. Otherwise, there will never be an Ann Mwangangi in these times of ours. So ethics always come first. Have you ever felt that a body told a story that the official narrative was trying to erase? No, not really. When you talk about an official narrative, unless we want to talk about family, unless we want to talk about the ones who are bringing in the bodies, those are the ones who really don't want to really tell the story as it is, maybe because they are guilty, maybe because they're trying to cover up for something. It has a lot to do with the ones who bring in their loved ones. Those are the ones who sometimes want to play the behind scenes of not telling the whole truth. But eventually, there's nothing that goes far beyond than what truth can present. Do all bodies receive the same level of dignity, or does class, status, and money quietly decide? Once again, once you are on the table, your status, your money, your class, that is so irrelevant to us. You are narrowed down to an admission number. So the only thing that can be accorded is dignity all across board, the poor, the rich. Regardless of the status quo you present, it's all the same. It's all the same. Everyone is equals. Once you die, everyone is equal. Are mortuaries in Kenya truly regulated, or are there things happening simply because no one is watching? They are regulated. Every mortuary has its own standard operating procedures. You can never get out of a norm. That is why the least scandalous department is the morgue. Yes, it's very hard to find mortuaries with malpractices because they're all regulated. We might not have the support that we truly need as far as our country is concerned, but we do our best to accord our people the dignity and the service that are stated as far as the standard operating procedures are concerned, and as far as the state mandates. So, if the mortuary industry in Kenya were forced into total transparency tomorrow, who will be most uncomfortable and why? Were forced into total transparency tomorrow, who will be most uncomfortable and why? It will be the family, because they're the ones who bear the truth of the people who lie on our tables. I think it will be the ones who bear the stories. You know, us, we don't have the stories of the ones who are departed. Honestly, it would be the ones on the other side as we partake for them. Yeah. So it will be the family, because they're the ones who hold the stories more than us. If someone followed you for a week at work with no filters, what would disturb them the most? The sight. The sight of what our eyes see that we don't get to share. It is what our heart carries that I think will disturb them most. It's the pain we carry for others, generally. It is the loss that we carry for the families that would disturb them most, because not many can withstand the kind of grief we carry on behalf of the family. Has working with the dead changed how you view justice, especially in cases of unexplained death? I wouldn't say not really. No, not really. Because as far as I'm concerned, everyone is hands-on, on deck, when we are carrying out the autopsies and the post-mortem procedures. It is in plain sight. You can't miss it. And it cannot be corrupted, since all parties partake. Yeah, so as far as justice is concerned, unless you are talking about now the follow-ups, the wondering if the people who you served from murder really got justice, from rape case really got justice, even after finding the undeniable truth of what happened to them. I think the ultimate questions, once the family carry their loved ones for interminate, I think the biggest question is, will the family ever get justice, or it's going to be delayed? What is the most morally compelled case you've ever handled, and why? That's a hard pass. My oath of Hippocrates do not allow me to relive any moment or any case that I've served for my state people. So that's a pass. Do you think society respects mortician or just tolerates them because death is unavoidable? I think the society is cultured differently. We all come from a point of fear of what we do not understand. People tend to fear what they do not understand. And that is why some of us took the mantle to explain or to make people understand what it truly takes to sit on the other side of the courtroom. So yeah, I wouldn't put respect and tolerance in one sentence. All I will say is, the society will learn as far as they are taught. The society will live up to, so long as we lead, they will follow. So it's just by showing and saying the truth, basically making them live the truth, that eventually we'll get there where the respect is more dominant. So I wouldn't talk about tolerating, because you cannot tolerate a person whose service you really don't need. So yeah, you ought to respect. But to the layman, respect comes when you wander into my corridors and actually get to know what I do, really do. So that's why your respect will be garnered from. So yeah, until we meet, you can keep your respect until the service you require is rendered. In this industry, what is spoken openly and what is never said out loud? What is spoken openly is what people don't want to hear, is what people don't want to come to terms with. That death is inevitable. We only pray that it is not untimely or it's not our own. But death is inevitable, and that's the saddest part. What is never said out loud is that the system has equally failed us. As much as it has failed the dead people or the deceased, it has also failed us to some extent. Yes, death has also failed us. The system has also failed us, the government. has failed us. Yes, because of the infrastructure they put up, because of the lack of support that we receive. This is a forgotten cause, the one that is rarely mentioned in tables. I've never had any minister approach the table of the deceased with ultra clarifications. Everybody tends to ignore it as if it's not happening. As much as we are trying to infrastructure or carry out infrastructure, improve them across all sectors, I also believe the dead also require their dignity, and it shouldn't be a lost cause. In your experience, who exploits death the most? Family, institutions, or the system itself? Everybody. Everybody exploits death. Everyone. The families, institutions, and the system itself. Everyone has a give and take situation from it. But the one who truly experiences are the ones who death truly triggers directly. So yeah, everyone exploits from it. From the family members, the institutions, and the system itself. It was nice answering your questions. And as you can see, it's all done and dusted. Somebody asked me the advice I will give as far as mourning and grief is concerned. We don't really overcome, we don't really heal from death, loss, and grief. We learn how to live with it. We learn to accommodate it. You make it a companion, a friend that you can live without. And that is when you learn detachment from those and the things that you loved. And that is on grief. It doesn't end. It is like a curse. So we learn to accommodate it, to sit with it in the quiet presence, to fill in the gaps with the love and the memories once shared. And if you want to know more, I'm also an author. The Diary of a Mortician by Ann Mwangangi. So yeah, you can get the copy. Let's learn one thing or two about death, loss, and grief. Bye.